mic would work. Those moments took me to a dark place. Hold on, let me start over. Welcome to another night of Real Talk. What is Real Talk? Real Talk is real people with real stories about real life. Thank you for joining us once again. I have to say that again. We thank you for joining us. This is probably our 4th installment of Real Talk, and we've had some great people who have come by here to tell their story about their life. Real Talk is based on the scripture in Revelation chapter 12, verse 11, where it says, we overcome the enemy, or we conquer the enemy by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. That is so important. So you've heard testimonies over these last several weeks. This week, and I was sharing the story about me dealing with some health issues that had me in the bed for 6 straight days, and I was kind of gotten to that mode of depression and darkness. Have you ever been there? Tonight, we're going to hear some stories from some people that have been there in that dark place. I don't care how excited you are and what type of person you are. Sometimes you just get in a dark place. But I'm going to tell you something. I believe in the scripture in Psalms 3:3 that says, you, O Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, the lifter up of my head. So these stories are going to just be gripping, but they're also are designed to lift up your head. So get ready and hear the story from William Woodruff.
Well, my life has basically been full of fear and fearfully driven. 2 major things about my life is I was born into a first family with my great-grandfather being a pastor on the west side of Chicago, and I'm an only child. Most of my life, I basically done spent a lot of time trying to fit in and be like everybody else. I remember back in high school, I honestly started smoking weed and, trying to be like everybody else by doing things and trying to fit in with everybody. And it was just pulling me. It was stretching me far. And I was doing all of this stuff because I was living in fear. Now, I'm going to fast forward to the end of August going into September of 2017. But up until this time, I want y'all to know that, I was just literally wasting away my life. Basically, I was in this place where I was just literally just partying and drinking, and I was hanging out with the wrong people, and I was blessed with a great job that paid way over, the amount that I needed at the time, and I had more than enough money, and I was just out there balling. I mean, I honestly was just out there wasting my life away. I was just partying, drinking every weekend, and smoking, and I had so much time on my hand, and I just still wasn't having that emptiness or whatever it is that I was looking for filled. And I got to that place in 2017 where I was just like, man, this ain't doing it. This is not cutting it. And I'm like, I know I'm supposed to be doing something more. Honestly, it was really in that place that I was just like, man, maybe if I get a job or get another job or get another hobby or something that I can do, just like a job that can fulfill that time, that can take away that emptiness or whatever it is that's there. So I tried to get that job, and up until that time too, I was making poor decisions financially. People would say that, hey, you making, good money, especially for your age. You don't got that many bills. How are you, how are you struggling financially? How are you, I was hanging around the wrong people, all that smoking and drinking and partying and stuff. That stuff was pulling at me in my spiritual life, my physical body, from all of the things that I was doing, the activities, the working, all the excessive working, not getting enough sleep, not eating the right things, and all that stuff was breaking me down. And at that time, I'm just like, man, I know I'm supposed to be doing more, so what is it? And I honestly was trying to get another job. That job didn't come through. I had failed relationships, and I had my last failed relationship around that time. And that really just got me down to that point where I was broken down, and I really kind of fell into a depression. And that depression turned from mild to deep. And from that, the suicidal thoughts started creeping in. And, I was honestly getting to that place where I was really thinking about suicide. And suicide, I was isolating myself, and I was really to that point where I was getting ready to go through with that. And literally, it was just, God was just like, if you don't make the changes, you're not going to see the change that you want to see. And from that moment, I just honestly just began to write down the things that I had, the things that I need to change, the things that I need to fix, the people I need to let go, the things that I had to let go of, the things that weren't working for me. And I began to make those changes. And as I was getting back to what I would consider as normal, I started asking God, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing? Because I know I'm supposed to be doing something. I mean, I'm doing good. My spiritual life is getting back. It's starting to grow. And I'm starting to continue to grow spiritually. And physically, I was getting back in shape. And mentally, emotionally, I was getting back to that place of, being stable. And I'm like, so what is it that I'm supposed to be doing? And I kept praying. And shortly after, Pastor Jeff had reached out to me about becoming one of the leaders for the youth ministry. And I'm like, man, so and I continued to pray, and that was where God wanted me for that. That was my next assignment. And he was preparing me for that. So I take on that, and then I'm just going to fast forward to the end of August of 2018. All of my time with the youth and being in the youth ministry, all of my life, again, I've been living in fear. I wasn't doing anything. I didn't try many things. So me being with the youth, it definitely pulled me, and it definitely pulled a lot out of me. It was a lot of things that I didn't know that was in me that began to come out. It was a lot of things that I began to do. I began to try new things. I began to seek out my purpose. Like, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? What is my purpose? And I began to pray about that. And towards the end of the summer, obviously, I ended up getting a call about, getting into the modeling and acting. And I reached out from this agency, and the agency had reached out to me. I had put an inquiry out a couple years ago, and they had reached out to me about doing an audition. I did the audition, and the first audition went good, so I had come in for a second one, and the second one went good, and they wanted to bring me on and to develop me into, being a model and an actor in the industry. And I'm like, man, that's what's up. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm excited. That's what I want to do. And, I continued to do that, and in that period, my mind, my mind and my eyes shifted from God's will to my will, my will for my life. What did I want to do? And the things that I. And from that point on, I began to really, seek out the things that I desired, not really thinking about the ministry, not thinking about the people that God had placed in my life, not thinking about the assignment that God had given me. I'm just like, man, look, what do I want to do? And honestly, from that point on, I really just saw myself just starting to take that drive down. And going a little bit down to December, December, up until that point, like I said, I had made plans in November about, me doing the things that I desired, which I wanted to travel. I wanted to go out of state. I wanted to go to different places and travel. I saw myself being international and, national model and actor and, doing music and meeting people and impacting people and, being that positive influence to people and to kids and the people around the world. And that's what I wanted to do because my deepest desire was to help people. So in December, one night I ended up going out to eat. I was going to get something to eat. I'm driving, and this dark spirit literally came into my car as if it was somebody in a passenger seat that I was riding with. And this spirit was just talking to me like, man, what can I do to get you to come to my side? What can I do to pull you to my side, to have you with me? What can I do? What can I offer you? What do you desire? What do you want? What can I give you? And again, my deepest desire is to help people. My deepest desire is to, be of influence. I wanted to help. I kept saying, I want to help people. I want to be in a position to help people. I don't desire much. I don't desire the things of this world. I don't desire cars and clothes and houses and all that lavish stuff. I don't desire that lifestyle because that's not me. I don't want riches. I want the money, but I was like, I don't want the fame. I don't want that. I don't want to be in that position. So I'm like, honestly, I just want the money. I'm like, I mean, so I can help my family. I can help those around me. I can help those that God has placed in my life. But I also want you to know that I'm not trying to jeopardize my relationship with God, because that's ultimately, I'm like, at the end of the day, that's just a no. That's a no-no. We're not going to talk about that. And this whole time, you know, I just had conversations with this spirit. This spirit would come up as I'm at home, I'm at work, or I'm just, you know, taking the garbage out. And it was just like this spirit would just be talking to me and trying to entice me, trying to pull me. And, you know, going into January, January was, you know, I was just really, I made up in my mind. I'm saying, you know what, I'm not going to be a part of this. And the one thing that stuck to me that this spirit told me was like, you know, for 6 months, you're going to experience madness. For 6 months, I'm going to kind of torment you. I'm going to have you feeling all kinds of, you know, just be feeling like you crazy, and you're going to have all these weird experiences. I'm just going to have everything going wrong for you. I'm going to just mess with you. And I'm like, man, and I'm just like, I'm thinking nothing. And it literally was just that for me. And it was just like I was going through all kinds of mental things and spiritual and physical battles. My finances it was like things was just happening. I'm like, oh my gosh. And going into the last week of February, I honestly had this every single day. I literally was taking blows, financially, physically, spiritually, emotionally. I had some bad relationships, and it was that Friday that I had I'm an early riser. I'm a night owl, but I'm also an early riser, and I basically was tired. I mean, you know, I was fighting. I was dealing with things. I had made all these decisions. I took things into my own hands, and in my head, I thought that, you know, I had made all these things, and I had hurt all these people that was connected, all these people that God had placed in my life, and I felt like I couldn't go back, you know, and like I just had to let go of it all, you know what I'm saying, because I just felt like, man, I done did all this. I done hurt these people. I done hurt the people that God has placed in my life. I hurt these loved ones. I done hurt my mom. I done hurt, you know, my ministry. I felt like I'm like, man, I can't. And I was in this place where literally I was just like, man, this is the only way. And I reached out to actually one of our leaders, Latrice Files, and I was trying to be kind of low-key about it. I'm like, you know, I got this youth that is struggling with suicide. You got that hotline number? And she texted me that back because I was in this place where I texted her and I couldn't even really talk. I couldn't ask God for help. Like, I was just like, man, I was in this place where I couldn't say, God, I need help. I was mouthing the words, like, that's all I could do. That was the only strength that I had, you know, and you know, I reached out and I was just thankfully, and I mouthed those words, and it literally felt like, you know, God just literally kind of pulled me. It was like, you know, hanging on a rope over a ledge, and you like, your hand is just slipping, and I was right there at that last strand of rope, and it was like as soon as I mouthed those words, it's like I instantly inched up a little bit. I inched up just a little bit more, and I inched up, and then I had enough strength to get my other hand on the rope and climb myself back up. And as I look back, I just realized that everything that I went through is for purpose. You know, sometimes you have to go through things in order to help people get through things. And as I look back, I'm just grateful for all of my experiences, and I'm thankful for the journey that I went through, because it just showed me that, you know, our purpose. You know, you have your purpose is everything, you know what I'm saying? And I'm so grateful for my purpose. I'm grateful for that God has me here so that I can continue to fulfill the things that God that He has for me to do. Like I said, my deepest desire was to help people, and now this gives me a greater opportunity to fulfill that, you know, the work that God has placed before me. Amen.
Real talk from real people about real life. Sometimes we can just look at people, especially leaders, and we think they got it all together. I need you all to know some of the strongest people that you could imagine. We all need a hug. Because we go out through life and we try to lead people. We try to do the right thing. We have all of these thoughts in our minds about things that we want to do. And we have these high priorities that we placed upon ourselves. And sometimes it can come falling down on us. Across our country, in this day and time, you look at the statistics. Across the country, suicide rates are up. Here in our great city, the city of Chicago, we've had probably 4 or 5 police officers in the year 2019 who have taken their own lives. So mental health is a true and real issue. We want you all to know, we want to encourage somebody that's out there right now that might be thinking about taking their lives. I need you to know that you were born for a purpose. God has you on this earth for a purpose. Try to find a way to get your mind on him. Here's what the Bible says about that. If you can keep your mind stayed on him, he'll give you something called perfect peace. And sometimes when our mind is going like that, and the chaos that's in our minds, that's all you need is some peace. So I hope that you can just take that time to get your mind on God so he can deliver peace to you. So we have another story, and we want you to hear the voice of Sharonda Martin.
Well, my story, growing up, I guess people would look at my life and say, you know, this kid has a pretty privileged life. She lived a pretty good childhood. I grew up in a 2-parent household. Both of my parents had what we'd equate as pretty good jobs, and they both took the time to foster relationships with me of their own. I had a very large extended family full of cousins and different things like that. So things were well, right? But you always have someone in your family that you're just bonded to. And for those reasons, I'll start my story at 16 years old. Around that time is what really started to shape me and mold me into what my purpose is that I still currently walk in today. I had a cousin, and his name was Tyrone. The two of us were more than cousins. We were very best friends. For as long as I can remember, it was just the two of us. 2 peas in a pod, Mork and Mindy, right Kit Kat, left Kit Kat. You get the point. Best friends, always together. And, you know, we were, for the most part, living our lives, as they say, living our best lives. But what is on the outside is not always what's happening internally. I can remember being at my grandma's house and getting a phone call from my dad. And if anyone's ever met my dad, he's probably the most blunt and straightforward. He has no idea how to sugarcoat anything. It doesn't matter what the subject is. He just is there. He's just going to give it to you, right? So he calls me at my grandma's house, and he says, like, hey, Daddy, what's up? And he says, hey, Ty tried to kill himself. I'm on my way to get you. And, you know, that delivery in and of itself is a story for another day, but I'm like, what? And he's like, Ty tried to kill himself. I'm on my way to get you. And at that moment, just shocked and stunned. There were no signs at all. No warning signs, no conversations, nothing that would be an indicator that something like this was even remotely a possibility. It just happened. So we get to the hospital, and I'm thinking in my mind, like, were there warning signs that I missed? Did I do something? Am I missing something? Am I so self-involved that he was talking to me and I didn't know? So I just needed answers, right? And we get to the hospital, and I ask everyone to leave the room, and we're talking. I mean, we share everything. There were no secrets at all between me and him. It was just Everything was out there on the table. So we ask everyone to leave the room, and we start to talk, because clearly you're not going to go through this, and we're not going to talk about it. And so we're having these conversations. And as we were children and teenagers, we would, when something was really important to us, we would make these pacts. And it sounds silly, but it just meant to us that these would never be broken, and when we made a pact that we would stick to it. So I'm talking to him, and I'm like, there's no way that I would ever be able to live on this earth without you. Inevitably, if you decided to do this again, then I would do it too. And so at that moment, the biggest pact that we've ever made in our lives was formed. Shortly after his release from the hospital, things were going good. He was in counseling, he was going back to church, and things just appeared to be on the up and up. Things were going in the right direction until it wasn't. He decided that this time would be different. He didn't want to be stopped. He had made up in his mind that, he would be successful this time. So he started to call around and called everybody that he loved, and he was, leaving goodbye messages and calling at a time that he knew people wouldn't be at home. He was just leaving messages all over town, like leaving messages to everybody. And then he called one of our other cousins that was close to us, and he told her, what was happening, and basically was just very straightforward with it. And he says to her, hey, listen, this is, what's about to happen. Don't hang up. And then he says, I need you to tell Ronnie that I love her with my whole heart, but I couldn't call her. I couldn't say goodbye to her because she's not strong enough to handle that. And the most important part is to tell her that the pact is off. She'll know what it means. And then as he was on the phone with her, he turned the music up and he took his own life. And from that moment, my entire world as I knew it was shattered. My heart was broken, and I literally just lost my very best friend on earth. Once that happened, it just catapulted me into this really, really, really dark place, like the darkest place I've ever been in my life. I couldn't speak. I could not eat. I had no idea what was going on around me, and I was on 24-hour suicide watch. And you can imagine the sheer agony that my family was going through, my parents who are preparing to bury their nephew, my aunt who's preparing to bury her son, and, all of my cousins and my family members, just what they're going through, thinking that they're going to be going through it again. I grew up in the church, so I knew the Lord. I knew that I should be praying. I knew how to pray, but I couldn't. I couldn't even speak. I couldn't pray for myself. I couldn't call on the Lord. I had no desire to even do so. I was just broken. But the one thing that resonated in my mind over and over again, even in that broken place, was him saying that he couldn't call me because I couldn't take it. I wasn't strong enough. That he may have changed his mind if he talked to me. So my mind said, what if I wasn't so weak? What if he didn't perceive me as the baby? What if he would have called me? Would things have been different? So I lived with so many what ifs that I couldn't get myself together. But I promised myself at that moment that if I got through that, I would never be perceived as weak again. Shortly during that same season, I lost my grandma, the pillar of my family. She wasn't just my grandma, but she was everything to everybody. She literally was the matriarch to our family. And, just after an unexpected illness, boom, she was gone. So another hit, another loss. During that same season, my parents, who, that two-parent household that I was so proud to grow up in and everything, after 20 plus years of being married, my parents split up. Another hit, another loss. And so just having so many losses over and over and over again, it just kind of made me this bitter, resentful, rebellious person. It was really bad. I had suffered so much loss, and I didn't know how to navigate it. I didn't know what to do to, make it better. And so I took that negative energy and I transferred it into just foolishness. I was doing everything from drinking and gambling and boys and partying and later on clubbing. And, it just led to a series of unhealthy relationships. And the sad part is I knew better, but I just wasn't ready to do any better. And so shortly after that, once I got myself together, I started to go through a season of my life where I wanted to right the wrongs. So now I'm desperately overcompensating for all of the things that I felt like I've done wrong to people and in my life. And, I was saying yes to everything everybody wanted me to do because I felt like somehow if I would just do those things that those people that I had let down, I had isolated and disappointed through my dark time, that it would let them know that I was sorry. And most importantly, it would let God know that I was truly sorry for all of the things that I did that I knew I wasn't supposed to do. And I remember one night as I'm just exhausted because I'm constantly saying yes to everybody, and God said, hey, listen, that's not how any of this works. I forgave you when you asked me for it, but you have to forgive yourself. Nothing you can do is going to make me forgive you because I've already done that. So now I'm walking into my purpose. I started to pray a lot and just cry out to God, and he showed me that through my pain, my purpose was being built, my purpose was being birthed. I mean, I've always enjoyed a good party. Even as a child, my parents and my family would have a lot of these extravagant parties. It was just something that we did. And of course, I just share with you guys that I've had my fair share of, participation in a party atmosphere. But even in that, I could walk into a room and be like, oh, if they would have done this, it would have been smoother. Or if they would have added this to their centerpiece, it would have looked a lot nicer. And it was just something that I've always been able to do. So by this time, I'm married to my husband, and let me just tell you that my biggest cheerleader, right? So he is what I need him to be when I need him to be it, and I needed that push. So he would start to just pressure me to perfect my craft, and he didn't just talk about it, but he did it. Any classes that he can enroll me in that were wedding planning related, event planning related, any other things of that nature, he enrolled me in it. And he even sat me down and we named my business, and at that point, Event Trendsetters was born. I went into it 110%. I was able to get the real me back. I wanted to be 100% dedicated to it because I felt like this was going to be my time to shine. This would be the time that I would be able to let all of those people who I let down and disappointed have something to be proud of me for. This was my moment. It was even my opportunity to brandish my real true strength. And even in that, God just told me, hey, listen, you don't always have to be strong enough. And, I live by 2 Corinthians 12:9. It tells me that his grace is sufficient for me, and his strength is made perfect in my weakness. His strength, my weakness. So I took that and I ran with that. Fast forward to the now, right? So now it wasn't really until I joined the Valley that I realized that purpose and ministry don't always have to line up in order for it to equate purpose, right? So my God-given talent and ministry don't always have to be aligned. I used to think that it wasn't my purpose, it was just talent, right? Because to me, purpose was being out in the world, saving souls, doing ministry work, and those sort of things. But once I joined the Valley 7 years ago and under these teachings, I learned that that's not the case, that God's purpose for me is mine. And as long as I'm walking in that purpose, he's pleased with me. And it's interesting because even in the midst of the pain of watching my own immediate family break down, of suffering some pretty tragic losses and all of those different things, God still allowed me to open my eyes to the importance of celebrating. And I took that and it became my passion, right? So I now wanted to have other families be able to understand the importance of celebrating, giving them a stress-free type of environment to be able to do that. It became my passion, and it further became my purpose. And so much so that even my business mantra now says that you come to me feeling like a client, but we make sure you leave feeling like family. Thank you.
It's real talk from real people about real life. We're getting ready to go into this final segment of Q&A, but I want to be able to give somebody the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. If you're dealing with those thoughts, those suicidal thoughts, please call 1-800-273-8255. Once again, that number is 1-800-273-8255. We always want to be put people in position to be able to get some help, because a lot of times we want to feel like we're strong enough, or we don't want to be bothering people, or we some of us feel like we're too weak and we don't want to reach out to others. One of the things I know about this thing is people isolate themselves, and that's one of the tricks of the devil, where he wants to isolate us. He came to kill, steal, and destroy, but I know somebody that came to give life, and life more abundantly. So let's sit down and have a talk. Hey, Sharonda.
Hey.
Hey. What's going on, Will?
What up?
All right. So I'm going to start because Sharonda was able to kind of share a little bit about how it led her to a purpose. What are you doing these days as God has He's kept you alive for a reason? Tell us about that reason.
So honestly, in this time, basically from the beginning of the year, I actually just started, one of my things that I was doing was I was working out. I spent a lot of time in the gym. I mean, everybody kind of knows me. I'm a gym junkie. So I spent a lot of time in the gym. And like I said, after I got that breakthrough, it was the first Sunday of March. Basically, I really just went even harder in the gym, and I really started focusing not just on the physical, but I realized as I came into more contact with people, they also showed me that, man, there's a lot of other things that are tied into that, tied into that working out. That working out is the mental, your spirit, your emotions. So one of the things that I started doing is I really just started focusing on making sure that I'm whole, focusing on each component, working out. And it wasn't until recently God actually gave me a business, gave me an idea for a business and started my own business. When you talk about purpose, now it's like, man, I have the opportunity to impact people, and it's exactly what I wanted to do on a bigger scale, because, obviously I'm getting into personal training, and I'm getting my certifications, and I'm learning more about nutrition and the body and how the body works and things that we can do to, better ourselves and make ourselves whole. So God has given me an idea for a business, and I'm working on that right now, and I'm still working with the youth, and it's ways that I can impact them, and it's new things, new experiences, and new things that I can share with them now that can help us all to continue to go forward and help them in whatever walk they're in. You can have some kind of resource, some kind of help that they need to help them go forward in their purpose as well.
How important do you think it was that you experienced the things you experienced to be able to, as you go through those types of things, be able to share with the youth? How important it is that you're able to connect with them in that kind of way?
It's extremely important. Honestly, there's no way that if I can connect with them if I didn't go through what I went through. You talk about having substance. I can't tell you how to get through, get off stop smoking weed if I ain't never smoked weed, or if I can't tell you how to get through depression if I've never been through depression, or I've never been through certain things. Not saying that I have to go through those things or I have to put myself through those things, but just saying that everything that we go through is for a reason, and it can help somebody else. I realized, too, that even in my times, in my darkest moments, it was like, it just proved to me that our life is bigger than just us. It's not about us. When we talk about businesses and we talk about our purpose is not for us. It's for other people. We start businesses to help other people. We cook for other people. Like the things that we do is for people. And even with music, I'm like, man, we make music for people. Like, you don't make music just to hear it to yourself. That sound good, So everything that I went through was, it was for me to do the exact same things that I desire, which is to help people and to be that influence and be of help, resource to people all across the world and to impact. That's what I want to do.
That's it right there. You party animal, you. Well, I got to call her a party animal, but didn't nobody party like I was the party. But anyway, Sharonda, tremendous loss in that period of your life with your cousin. Then there was a grandma, and it was somebody else, right?
My parents.
Your parents split up. Oh my God! And what sometimes people don't recognize, even split ups or divorces and things like that. That is loss, and you spoke about it as loss. How did you really feel? What were the thoughts and feelings in that moment?
Wow. You feel like it's never going to get better. Again, you know what you should be doing. You should be crying out to God. You should be doing all those things that you've been taught to do. But in those moments, you just feel like it's dark and it's just going to be hit after hit after hit after hit, and there's no way for you to be able to overcome. You can't in that moment see that there's something that's going to be bigger, better, greater, that you're going to be able to use your story to impact somebody else or to help somebody else, because in that moment, you need help yourself. And really, all I could think about was, this is probably the worst it's ever going to be for me. It's never going to get better, and nothing's ever going to fill that void. But we know that's not the truth. When you know better, you inevitably do better. And I think because I was raised in the church and I knew in the back of my mind what was the right thing to do. I had parents that never gave up. And, my mother, it's interesting because my mother would come in my room every day when I was on suicide watch. And I remember she would come in my room and she would just stand at the door and just pray and walk out. And she did that every single night. And now that I'm older, I knew that she would do that, and then she would go in her room and cry. And she would come back and she would do it again. But I just felt like it just would never get better. Like there was no other way out.
I want you to speak to something that I think sometimes people overlook, especially when you're teenagers and things like that. And so when they hear words like suicide pact, I think sometimes we don't take it seriously. And when I want you to kind of go back to that moment and kind of share how serious you were in that moment, that you were in agreement with the thing that you all had decided to do.
It was very serious. I think that, and he understood that it was serious. And, I felt like when I walked in and I saw him and he was, hooked up to some stuff, but he could talk, and he was like, this is really painful, you can't do this. But the pact that we made, it was something that it meant something to us. And when you have a bond with somebody, and we'd never broken one in our entire lives, so my mind said that I would not be able to live without him anyway. So if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it too. And he understood that what we were saying was true. I understood that what we were saying was true. And I was well prepared to carry it out if he carried it out. And ultimately, he did. But I think because he wanted to do it, but he didn't want me to do it. And, he did what he had to do, but he, left some folks here in some good direction, and God just had something else for me. So here we are.
And in that moment, and I got to ask the question, so because he didn't contact you and you didn't know what was going on, you didn't keep your end of the bargain. How did that part make you feel? Was it betrayal? How did that part make you feel?
I felt really bad. It started off with, what if I wasn't so weak and he would have called me? Maybe I could have just stopped this, And he made mention to our cousin that if he would have called me, I would have been the person to stop it, and he didn't want to be stopped. So I felt like, okay, here we go. I'm the weak one, and he couldn't call me. I didn't even get a chance to say goodbye. Then I started to feel, I had all of the what ifs. I had guilt. I felt like I betrayed him because now he's gone and I'm still here, even though I'm in this moment, in this dark place where I can't even talk. I didn't have a clue what was going on. The one thing that was in my mind was that I'm betraying him, because he's gone, and I promised him that we made a pact that I was going to do it too. Even though he called it off, I still felt guilt in my heart that I was still left here, and he was not.
Wow, powerful, deep. So Will, and we're going to stay in this dark place for a little while. I think sometimes, as I'm asking you the question, when we talk about these demonic forces and voices and things like that, people think it's a joke. And then you got people on the other end of the spectrum that they over spiritualize it. They like it's not really real. This thing is real. So could you talk a little bit about those voices that were coming to you, those influences that were trying to get to you to do the things that they were trying to get you to do?
Well, first off, let me just say that it is really real. I mean, the one thing that I noticed and it brought to perspective too is that, even as us but as believers, a lot of times we always talk about, I hear from God, but we don't always talk about the other side, the other aspect of it, or we talk about believers. We don't talk about people that worship God, some people that worship Satan. It's two sides of this, and we never really talk about that part. And honestly, it's just as how we feel God. It's the same thing with that, and it's just a darker energy. You feel that presence, and it's like it's not. You hear it when you get an answer, and when you hear it, when you know God's with you, it's like a soothing feeling. In those moments, it was like fear. When I went out, like, honestly, promise, it was plenty of times where I'll take out the trash, or I'll be walking outside to go check the mail, or go to my car to run to the store late at night, or just during the day. Hey, Will. Hey, real quick. It's just like it's there, and you get the feeling like who's watching me? Like, it's that feeling, and it's like, man, you talking to somebody, and it's it's not a good feeling. It's just a fearful feeling, and that's how I felt. And I mean, honestly, in those moments, that's literally the main feeling that I felt. When I went outside, it always felt like somebody was watching me, like somebody was just like there, keeping an eye after me. It was just like, man, that's not a good feeling. So, to be honest with you, it's just that it's real. First off, that's just the best thing I can say. It's real. I mean, we have to understand that this is not a game. This spiritual is not a real. I mean, it's not fake. It's real.
Okay, and I appreciate you for that, because I think people need to understand that it is real, and so that when you are going through things like that, there is an answer to it, and really, I think sometimes, as if for those who require to go to people that will help you with your mental health, you need to do those types of things, no question, but know that there is a God element to it as well, and we're going to be tested. And in a lot of ways, we'll be tested in different kinds of ways. In the same way Jesus did, the devil came to him in the wilderness and tried to get him, to influence him by different things that he was trying to do. But the Bible says that Jesus overcame him. What? By the word of God. And so Sharonda, and you talk about those dark places too that you experience. This is going to be kind of challenging. But I like doing stuff like that.
We know.
Where was God?
He was there. I feel like obviously he never left. Otherwise, the outcome would be different. But in that moment, I knew him, but I wasn't interested, so to speak, in reaching out to him. I knew it. I mean, I never ever, in any place that I've been, felt like there was not a God. I knew he was there. I just had so many questions and so much bitterness and resentfulness in my heart that it was hard to feel him. And I now know that it was hard to feel him because I didn't seek him. All I needed to do was ask, and a spirit of peace probably would have come over me, but I didn't. I went into a dark, I couldn't even pray. The word God never came out of my mouth at that moment. It came out of my parents' mouths, and I encourage parents all the time, and my mother does as well. If you have a child or whatever that has those feelings, yes, you get them help, but you always you cry out to God on their behalf, and he will answer, and that was our story. That was my story. God was there, but I wasn't looking for him.
And how would you answer that question?
And I was going to say, too, I mean, he was there the whole time. And really, like she said, as a parent, the hard thing about it, and, that I want to, kind of stress, is that when you're going through it, you know, you intervening isn't always the way to help. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, like she said, you praying is the best thing that you can do, because we can't just openly talk about that. I mean, you know, a lot of times, you know, you hear about when people get through it, they're like, well, why didn't you come talk to me? It's like, if I could have talked to you, I would have talked to you. You know, I mean, I just, you know, that's what you say. And then when you continue to ask questions and you continue to poke at it, you like, it's like, are you really helping it? Now you reviving that, you know, that feeling. We just got out of it. We're not trying to go back. Okay. So a lot of times, you know, as parents and as, you know, guardians, and it's like sometimes you have to be sensitive when you're, you know, dealing with reviving these things that we've been through. I mean, we can't, I mean, obviously, like I said, if we could have asked for help, we would have asked for help. If we could have talked about it, we would have talked about it. So therefore, it's like, man, when we're going through, the best thing you can do is, you know, is just pray on our behalf, because like she said, I mean, it's times we can't even pray, you know, like it's so strong. That feeling is so strong that you know what I'm saying? Like, it's that anchor, you know, it's that strong. And, you know, you get to that place where you like, man, it ain't nothing else that I can do but this.
Now I know why you didn't call me.
Yeah.
Or me.
Yeah.
And I totally get it, man. And I, you know, for me, in the spaces that I've had where I felt it was dark, sometimes, you know, it's like, I want to be in this place for a little while. Just let me be here, and I'll come out sooner or later. Just leave me alone. I'm gonna be straight. But right now, I'm good. Right. Don't nobody say nothing to me, right? And I get that. So for as we get ready to close this particular segment, I want, as we always do as we close, I want you to speak to someone out there in the audience, maybe here in the sanctuary, or somebody out there online and live streaming, or on our website, or on YouTube, or on Facebook. Speak to somebody, Will, about trying to encourage them to live.
Well, understand this. You know, whatever you're going through, I mean, you're gonna defeat it. I mean, it's nothing that can defeat God. God is with God. Everything, we always win. So, one, know that, and second, know that your purpose and you are put on this earth for a reason, and that, you know, whatever it is that you're going through, you're greater than that, and that when you overcome this, you know, ask God. You know, if you don't know what your purpose is, if you're struggling, ask God, what is my purpose, and how can I use this experience to help somebody else? And I just encourage you to just to be strong. Just continue to pray, to reach out to those that may be around you, because you have similar symptoms and things that you've been through. Recognize that with the people that are around you, and try to be a blessing to those that are around you.
Good. What would you say, Sharonda?
I would say don't give up. Everything that we go through, you can't see it when you're in the moment, but know that God always has a purpose for you. And what you're going through it may feel bad for you now, but feel in your mind that it's going to help somebody else in the long run. Think about what it is that you're going through and how you're going to be able to impact other people later. So while it feels bad now, live. And I promise you that when you do that, what's coming after the storm is so much greater. All you got to do is hold on, reach out to people around you, find some things that you really love, and focus on those things, and take some of the negative out. And if you drown a negative out with some positive, even if it's one thing that you're holding on for, it might be one person, it might be one idea, it's worth it. Because at the end of the day, once you get through it, you're going to be, I want to say ministering, because ministering is religious, but you're going to be impacting other people around you. And if you can impact one person, then everything that you went through was for something. It was worth it, right? If I can stop one person from taking their own life, then what I went through with my best friend is worth it.
And I totally agree with them both. And for those of you who are out there that's dealing with being in that place right now, I need you to know you just don't know how far you can get to from the moment that you wanted to quit. There are moments in our lives where we wanted to quit. But I need you to know something. You're going to get through this. I need you to also know that greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. You're more than a conqueror you're mighty, you're great. So I just declare over your life the ability to live. You shall live and not die. You're going to declare the works of the Lord. So that we spoke the word of God, but I also want to do something in the natural. Once again, the suicide hotline, suicide prevention lifeline is the number 1-800-273-8255. Once again, 1-800-273-8255. Call that number. Talk to somebody. Get the help that you need. That's one thing that we know that we don't like to do is get the help. Get the help that you need. So I want to thank you, Will. I want to thank you, Sharonda, both of you all who both said that you were kind of nervous, but you didn't seem like it. Thank you for joining us and being a blessing to the people that are here with us right now. And it's just so great to hear the stories and great to hear how you came out. And so we just thank you for joining us once again here at Real Talk, where we have real people with real stories that are just keeping it real with you so we can be able to do what Romans 12:11 tells us. We overcome the enemy by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. Good night.